Hello, everyone. Welcome to our second session on the token engineering course, where we take a look at the token engineering fundamentals course by TE Academy and try to learn what it means to be a token engineer so that we build systems that are awesome and that don't go like Luna to zero. So we're going to start off by going through the first session we did to catch everyone up. I've shared a Miro board in the chat. And on that Miro board, you'll see quite a bit of many stuff. What we're doing is we're following through the course on this website, tokenengineering.net. When you scroll down, we took a look at the first module last week, and we're going to get started with the second module this week. We'll do a short summary of what we did last week to catch everybody up. I think the best place to start is this chart. So token engineering is a new academic field that is blossoming. It's like a few years old. It takes from many different fields. So it's a very complicated, diverse field of academics. It has industrial and systems engineering inside of it, some AI, optimization and control theory, some computer science and cryptography. There's some psychology and decision science, political science, governance, philosophy, law, ethics, economics, game theory, operations research, and management science. So, it's super easy to be an expert in this field. You just got to know all of these different things, It's super, super simple. What tokens do is create incentives. So that's where your economics and game theory come in. That's where your psychology and decision science come in, because you want to be able to understand what those incentives are, what you want out of the system that you're creating. That's where your political science and governance come in, because once you have built-in systems, incentives into your system, you need some way to govern it as well. With these decentralized platforms that we're building, these things, once you kick them off, change only in specific ways, and you set up governance structures on top of them with things like voting, things like governance tokens, who gets to make decisions to change the system that we're building. For example, with Bitcoin, you had a decision about the block size back in 2018. Who got to make that decision? It's the holders of network power. How that decision gets made is all about governance. So you're trying to make those kinds of decisions. And when you're thinking about all of this, philosophy and law and ethics come in, because, well, the systems you're building affect humans at a very, very high level, at a mega scale. So you want to make sure that you're ethical in what you're doing, and you want to comply with the law. So that's not always the case with crypto-based systems. And of course, we're building a computer-based system that we're building using very advanced technologies, decentralized technologies. And where some of the AI and optimization and control theory, some systems and ideas from electrical engineering come in, is that the design of these systems kind of is similar to the design of AI systems, where you are building through objectives and through constraints. And also this stuff comes in, but it's difficult to kind of explain. But maybe we can jump into like related fields and analysis of what these fields are. Maybe this video is quite important, I feel, of why this thing is important. Maybe we can take a short look at what this video shows us. So back in 1940, this film was taken, and the engineers who built this bridge didn't account for a concept called resonance. I think the electrical engineers in this call are pretty familiar with the concept. And because they didn't account for resonance, this happened and this bridge fell. And tokens are kind of similar. We don't have physical systems that we're building, but we're building systems that are that have very wide-ranging effects that once built you can't change. So the systems we build, if we don't account for some edge cases, will end up looking like this bridge and collapsing, just like we've experienced this year with Luna and some other coins as well. So what we do is really important. We need to engineer these well, understand what we're doing really well. So we got to learn. So that's why we're doing all this. And related fields that have been identified by researchers in this field are such: electrical engineering, optimization of systems comes in, uh, distributed systems and computer science, of course, is there. Game theory and finance come in, economics comes in because we're designing systems where we have incentives, exactly with behavioral psychology. So the understanding comes through behavioral psychology, and then we try to build games that we can optimize for using ideas in electrical and optimization and AI systems. And the design model that one of the researchers that came up with early on is how to design tokens is you design them kind of similar to how evolutionary algorithms work. And that means first you formulate the problem that you're trying to solve. That means you write down what objectives and constraints you want for your token ecosystem, asking questions like, who are my potential stakeholders? What do each of them want? What are the attack vectors? And you want to minimize those attack vectors. And that means translating all of these ideas to objectives and constraints that we can put down to basic math. And once we do that, we can try to solve it using an existing pattern. There are some existing patterns in token engineering, such as maybe you've heard automated market makers that DeFi protocols use to exchange your token X to token Y. So like some stable coins work with this model, with that model. If there isn't an existing pattern, then we create our own. And that's the pattern that we follow. And let's see. And on our way, we use tools that are very similar. This one to what we use in electrical engineering is token spice. So you can simulate tokens on the EVM based. So we can't really use this one. There's a Python module called CatCat that you can create a model complex systems through. And for the visually inclined, and my favorite really is this one, Machinations, which allows you to model systems in a more gamified way. So you can do lots of models and simulate all of these different parameters in your token engineering system. And you do some crazy simulations that are really fun. It's going to give out all the different results through Monte Carlo simulations. So that's where we hope to get to through learning through this course. Well, before we get there, maybe one case study is important here. So we're all familiar with Bitcoin. What it does is this. So these are the objectives and constraints of Bitcoin. So what it does, the objective is to maximize security of the network. And what that means is security is the compute power of the entire network. So what Bitcoin tries to do is to get as much computational power on it to try to solve the mathematical challenge. And the more compute power, the more secure it is, because you need more and more parts, more and more compute power to take over the network. So it's more difficult to make that 51% attack. And so just with this basic objective function, and there are no constraints on the on Bitcoin, you have a incredible result. Bitcoin is extremely secure. There are many millions of millions of hash power just running, trying to secure Bitcoin. Many ASIC farms all over the world. There's an entire ecosystem that born out of this. And a side effect is that the electricity usage is more than many small countries. So if there was a constraint on this in that in this equation, maybe the electricity usage would be lower. But since there isn't, since it's not constraining this, it's just maximizing network security, we have an issue with electricity usage in Bitcoin. So it could have been more better engineered, but it's difficult to do this in 2008 when we had no knowledge about any of this. Any questions so far? And if at any point you guys have questions, please hop in. So we talked about how these systems can be built. That was the first paper that is in the first module in the Introduction to Token Engineering. Then there's an academic paper that we went through. At least we took a look at this, took a look at all the different fields. And in this paper, if you want to take a look, it goes through all of these different fields and finds related studies from all of these fields that apply to crypto economic systems that you may want to take a look at. Then we took a look at the Web3 sustainability loop, and the summary is this. So with Web3 projects, what you have are tokens. So you want to use your tokens in such a way that the project itself is sustainable over the years. And the way to do that is you use the token and you use the token to feed the workers who are working on the protocol, who are building the protocol, the devs, the application, and you're generating new revenue from the ecosystem, and you want to feed that back into the system. But the critical thing is using this token generation and buying and burning system in a sustainable way, and that means projects in your ecosystem are curated by the community, proposed and curated by the community. So if we think about Project Catalyst, which is the funding platform for Cardano, we are such a project that are building on it. So we propose a project, and the community, the entire Cardano community, every holder of Cardano votes on these projects. So ideally, you want those projects to be values aligned to what Cardano is trying to do, such that it is sustainable. These projects are funded by network revenue. So that means every payment that we do on Cardano is as a transaction fee, and that fee goes to the treasury that funds these projects. So directly by using the system that is Cardano, you are funding new projects on Cardano, and that drives a great sustainability loop. And ideally, what you want is when projects do more work, add more value, your network revenue goes up and your token value goes up. So you get more and more funding to feed back into the system. And that becomes like a very sustainable model to grow upon. And if these things aren't true, you're going to run out of money and your project's going to go to zero. And if you take a look at this paper, compares this model with previous models. This is governments. Governments have a similar structure to token generation. Instead of tokens, they print money and they tax individuals to generate revenue. And for companies, you have a similar structure with companies issuing stock and then generating revenue and feeding back in. So very similar structures with issuing stock, printing fiat money, and then token generation. And finally, this one, crypto network governance is capital. I think we can skip this one for now. So this establishes an introduction to the first to the T fundamentals course here. Oh. That was the introduction to token engineering, and we're going to jump into this module today with, there we go. All right, so this module is about, now we get to those parts that we talked about, where we're trying to define the system goals, system requirements, who are our stakeholders, what's our platform, so who do we care about, what are the interactions and value transfers in our system, and what are the metrics, what are the things that we're going to track, and the causal relationships. So this is all the thinking work that needs to happen before we start diving into simulating and looking at the details. So Harsha, you want to pick it up from here?
Yeah, let me share my screen. Give me 1 second. Yeah, I need permission.
Yeah, there you go. Go ahead.
So, so I'll just like introduce automated market maker before jumping into defining the system goals, because we are defining the system goals so that we can create an automated market maker. So a couple of important things that we need to remember about automated market maker is the liquidity pool. So it is just a pool that holds tokens, and any wallet can provide these tokens, and these people that provide these tokens are called liquidity providers. And then there are traders. Traders are just people who buy tokens and exchange them or do arbitrage with other pools. And the arbitrage is like a very important aspect of it. But before that, the price of these tokens, they're usually like two tokens, but in some cases there are more tokens in one pool. So when there are two tokens, and both of them are priced 50 and 50, so 5,000 of like X token and $5,000 of say Y token, and then after this is like the initial price, but the market decides the eventual price of these tokens. Say someone starts buying token X and dumping token Y into the pool, so that means the amount of token X is decreasing while the token Y is increasing. That means the price of X is increasing similarly and the price of Y is decreasing in that specific pool. And that is where arbitrage becomes important, because someone wants to buy a token for cheap in one pool and sell the same token in another pool for higher. So this balances out like all the pools in the ocean. The price balances out amongst different pools because of people who do these constant arbitrages. So that is the basic idea of like automated market maker. So to design this, what we need to do is we need to discover, so we need to go through the discovery phase. In this phase,
continue a bit, can we make sure we all get what AMMs are, what automated market makers are? So you are all familiar with centralized exchanges like Binance, and let us know, like if you're not familiar with the concept, we can go over it and make sure we all understand. So in centralized market, centralized exchanges, what you have is for Binance, you have a centralized group that market makes. That means they match bids. For example, I want to sell Bitcoin and someone else has an offer to buy Bitcoin. The centralized exchange matches those offers. With automated market makers, instead of that central exchange doing that for us, we have a smart contract that does this for us. And the way it does that is through this liquidity pool. And this pool has both sides. It has Bitcoin And for example, what it can convert to is USD, let's say a stable coin, say USDT. It probably can't be USDT, but let's assume it can be. And then it just matches that according to some algorithm in that way.
It can be USDT.
Can it? Oh, that's
Yeah,
pretty
it
cheap.
can be anything. So initially the price will be $1. So assuming that USDT is stable, but eventual price of the token will be decided by like how many people are buying USDT and how many people are buying whichever Bitcoin. If people are like dumping USDT, then the price will go down below the dollar. So it is controlled in the pool itself, the price and arbitrage. Yeah.
So if somebody's dumping USDT, making
Mhm.
the price of the USDT go down in that specific AMM, what
Yeah.
happens is people will be buying that USDT for cheap prices. Let's assume it
Mhm.
goes down to 0.95 instead of 1. They will buy it from there and they will arbitrage, which means they take that money there, but go to another pool. So they go to Binance, for example, and sell it for $1 and make profit on that difference. And that's called arbitrage.
Is it all good? Like, are we clear on how liquidity pools and automated market maker kind of works?
Clear.
Okay.
Nice.
But Alex like did like a deep dive into exactly how price is controlled, like all of that. It's like actually quite mathematical. I don't know how that works, but when he comes back, he can dive in deeper. But my module was actually the simplest module you can ask for. It is, I mean, simple in terms of like studying, not in terms of doing. So it's
This is
about
just the
like,
most important one.
yeah. Yeah. So this is like the discovery phase. And in this phase, what we do is we define the system goals. So why are we creating what we are creating and stuff like that. So the design objective is almost similar for all of these, which is like the objective is build an infrastructure for economic interactions between agents so that the system will achieve the objectives of all the participants over the system's full life cycle. So that is kind of vague, but it kind of like tells you the values that it is built upon, the design objective. Now we will have to break it down into slightly more concrete or practical things. So that is where we define the system goals. So usually the system goals are technical and economic, but depending on what we are doing, there could be others as well. And I do not know what the others are because they didn't specifically give examples, but that is something that we as like a group have to figure out. So technical goals are basically, so we are in the intersection of economic activity, human activity, and technology. So technical goals is defining our goals in terms of the technology we are using, and it has to be someone that understands the technology. So they should be able to define those goals. But the economic goals are the ones that can be defined by all the stakeholders that are participating in the economic system that we'll be building. So what they say is that we need to identify KPIs, key performance indicators, and these would be things that we'll be going back to constantly and seeing if they need any changes, or we understand the health of the system based on the KPIs. So this is an objective that comes out of like understanding the technical goals and the economic goals. So these are the steps for deciding the goals. First step is to communicate with the stakeholders to get a picture of how they envision the system. And step two is to whatever is communicated, if we are able to put it in practical terms or concrete terms, that means we understood our system. And the last step is market analysis, which is understanding the other forces which shape our system. And what they usually do is the SWOT analysis and Porter's 5 forces. SWOT analysis, my tongue is like getting twisted. SWOT analysis uh, is basically understanding the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And Porter's 5 forces is basically a model that identifies and analyzes the 5 competitive forces that shape every industry. Uh, so Porter's 5 forces are a little bit old school. They're almost like built on fear of like competition. But if we can somehow like mold these 5 forces into what are the collaborative forces that shape our industry, then I think we can implement it with the system we'd like to build. And also they specifically to understand our goals and objectives, they say that questionnaires are a good idea, and the questionnaire should contain like open-ended questions and closed-ended questions. And the use of metaphors is also a good idea, because we understand systems better when they're compared to systems that we know in real life. It helps with the understanding better. For example, even with littlefish, starting with the naming, it's all metaphors. Little fish, this means this thing, coming together, it forms a big fish. These are all metaphors and stories that we build on top of our system. So they suggest to use metaphors to understand the system better. And that's pretty much all I had. Yeah, and then the next step is actually to take the goals and start making them into actionable items.
It is weird that they actually suggested SWOT and Porter's 5. I'm quite
Yeah,
surprised.
yeah, they feel pretty. Yeah, my understanding is that they come from the Ethereum world, or at least their focus is on the Ethereum world. And over there, it's all very competitive rather than collaborative. And I feel like they're taking from there. So we need to like slightly mold them a little bit for us.
These are very old school things. SWOT and Porter's like from 1950s or 60s maybe.
Yep.
They're very basic. Like these. Wow, I'm kind of. They didn't mention platform design toolkit for this.
No, I
No?
don't. Did I even like go through the same module? This is the module, right? Because this is what I read.
So this
Yeah.
was step 1, defining system goals, right?
Yeah.
All right. So how about we try to
Yeah.
do this?
Yeah, we should try to do this. Just to understand it better.
How about we do it for an AMM first? They do it. Let's go through that together.
Mm-hmm. Which one?
Just click the button at the bottom. It says what are specific system goals for an AMM? And then that'll give us some idea of, all right. Economic goal, low cost of operation. Provide a system that will have a low cost of operation. Okay. So when you're doing trades on your DeFi protocol, you want to have low costs so that you can make a profit off of it. Cool. Low market risk. No matter what market we are in, we don't want our resources to vanish. Okay. Are these system goals, or these just like general goals that you want? Those don't sound too much like system goals to me for some reason. Consistently predictable way. Okay. See, these don't quite follow from the system goals that we discussed in module 1 to me. At least they don't feel like they do. These are not like an objective, but maybe we're not there yet. Or maybe these are like conceptually we're trying to get there. Is that what defining system goals are? Ahmed, how do you think about system goals? Because your background in electrical engineering, I think, applies.
No, what I understand, this is basic things on the design part, what I understand. I'm just trying to recollect the information which I heard now. So it looks that these are the basic, like the fundamentals of the design. That's what my understanding it is.
Yeah, so laying the groundwork for what comes next, it seems.
It looks.
I'm also understanding it as a way of behavioral motivation mechanisms, potentially. So the system itself, what does it incentivize?
Mhm. So which of those goals kind of does that? Low market risk. No matter what market we're in, we don't want our resources to vanish. All right. All right. These seem more like what I was thinking about. Traders desire cheap and effective token exchange. All right. So how about we try to do an example together? You guys have the Miro board link? What can we do? Oh no. System goals to like a simple smart contract that does what? Let's think about it. What's the simplest thing you can think about, Tarsha?
What was that, Chakan?
What's like a simple smart contract that we can think about and understand and then try to get some system goals for? Maybe like an algorithmic stablecoin sounds very simple, huh?
Wow,
Yeah.
really? That
What else? What else is there? So, like a game? Are you familiar with any games like Axis Infinity or something? Maybe we can do those. No, I'm not. I don't know.
but so like, because those are NFTs, right? Like there are NFT pools as well these days, but I think these AMMs, they are specifically referring to fungible tokens.
Oh yeah, the AMMS for sure. But system goals, I think we can define for NFT-based ecosystems as well.
Yeah.
So if you had like a simple thing, it should. Let me see. What else could we do? Technical and economic. Maybe we could do a discussion of some of the detail that is in here. What popped out to you as really important when defining system goals?
I mean, just the fact that it was like an AMM constrained my idea of a system goal. I just like immediately like was constrained by like a liquidity pool idea. So I was just like, yeah, I wanted more insight on what kind of goals do we set up. Specifically, if you're saying that we are not just like an economic system, but also like a value system, we are exchanging value. So the liquidity pool is not like not just an economic pool, but like a value pool. So where value is exchanged. So
Maybe we can go over this module together and see what pops up to us. Oh. So, right, determining system goals. It takes three things. Understanding the stakeholders, which means communicating with stakeholders to get a clear picture of their view of the system. Okay. So for us, what would that mean? That means we talk with ourselves, And
But like, we also need to figure out what this system, what is the system we are talking about? Are we talking about littlefish as a whole? Is that a system, or are there specific aspects in littlefish that we need to consider? Or I mean, that has to do with the AMM.
let's think about little fish as simply as possible, right? We have little fish, which are individuals who are part of the system. We have, I'm going to call them organizations, but you may be familiar with the concept of colony as well, name in the process of changing. So, and you have actions, which people, stuff people do that we turn into NFTs.
Or fungible tokens.
In this concept, we have NFTs, but maybe, well, let's not have actions. Let's have just tokens, even simpler. So how do we incentivize people inside of organizations to do stuff together? Very simple. And that's maybe like a system goal that we try to iterate on through this process. So who are our stakeholders? These guys? Stakeholders?
It's both, right? The individuals and the colonies. And the way I'm interpreting that first one is that the community itself clearly understands what the value and the worth is of these particular tokens and this economic system. So for the individuals, right, they actually can get paid in these tokens, and then what is the value to them? They can spend these tokens, they can exchange these tokens. What inside of this ecosystem, inside of this community, the little fish community, what does tokens give them? What utility does it provide them? That's some of those questions. And I'm thinking also having access to other little fish, other individuals as part of a colony, being able to share like-minded thoughts, that's a value itself too, not just the worth of the token, but the access to these resources is also considered a value. And then for the organization itself, what is the value that it gets out of the community?
So that will be, I guess, doing stuff together, getting stuff done, maybe. Or maybe let's, all right. Can you guys hop on the board and kind of help me out here as well? Let's try to come up with a system to think about all this. Maybe this color will be value. So could you repeat that again, Curtis, so that we can write some of this down? See. Right. We can ask.
Yeah, sorry about that. Kids in the background. Yeah, I was just saying, it seems like we need to, the community members should be able to clearly see the value that little fish provides, or that the tokenomics provides. So if they acquire some of these tokens performing actions, what value does that grant them? And one, can they spend it within the ecosystem? Can they exchange it for ADA outside of the ecosystem or even within? And then also having access to resources like the colony, other little fish within a colony, sharing like-minded ideas. So having access to that resource is also a value add. And then for the colony itself, the value add is having access to resources like little fish, individuals that can work towards a similar goal.
Access to little fish, other individuals, said access to one more thing that I missed, I think.
The colony, it's kind of the same, right? Same incentive. The colony has access to like-minded little fish. So the colony itself is able to leverage those individuals to perform actions. And then the little fish individual itself also has access to the other individuals. So it's a value add for both the colony and the individual.
And even without values, this is what we try to do kind of provides this. And how does the token come into play? Maybe we should try to understand the system. When we communicate it in real world terms, yeah, that's exactly what you were saying. Well, providing access to resources, getting people connected. Maybe we should do a SWOT analysis to see if it's useful. Find one. Let's see if it is. Is there a good SWOT template on Miro? I bet there is. Oh, well, we don't need one. It's fine. We just use something like this. I feel like this is more useful to traditional businesses, I guess, that are already in they're already doing business, they're already doing something. We're kind of like that, but what is the strength of littlefish? Is it that too broad a question? Or maybe not. This already maps there, right?
Sorry, I'm struggling to get my Miro board open. So yeah, what is the value? You know, it's a system that allows collaboration, cooperation, access to other little fish individuals to work towards the similar goal. But what does that mean for the individual, and how do they leverage those strengths?
I'd like to see, is there an example of like a SWOT analysis they did for AMMs that we could take a look at? See how that worked? Not quite, huh? Oh man. How do you guys suggest we go on with this? There was another tool that I found earlier on that we found like a year back. Maybe we can use that because that was
So
quite
I
useful.
I feel like at this point on the Miro board, so the value that we give in general, it could be NFTs. For now, it is NFTs, right? Our actions, And say in the future, there is also a littlefish token, which we were talking about at one point. So either way, the NFTs or the token, they either represent economic value, utility, or some form of recognition. So now we are taking all of this and putting it in a pool. So once you put it in a pool, and it could be exchanged with ADA or whatever. So what is the point for these people to have the NFTs or the fungible tokens, and what is it going to give them, and how are they going to use it, is what we are figuring out, right? Just like to make sure we are in the same page.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think so, but not quite sure by putting it in a pool.
So if it is a non-fungible token or a fungible token, the idea is that it can be exchanged for something else, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
sure.
so the moment if it can be exchanged, that means we have to put it in a pool so that, you know, multiple people can do it at the same time instead of like a peer-to-peer one-on-one thing.
So the benefit of having your own pool, because this is where I'm in the same design process for our token. The point of having your own little fish pool is to leverage that arbitrage to maintain its value. So if you have a liquidity pool and you're going to set the exchange rate, right? How much your little fish token sells for in comparison to ADA. And that exchange rate is set by little fish. Now, AMMs can be adopted and liquidity pools can be established and created by anybody. So anybody can stand up a liquidity pool and offer it for a different exchange rate. But if you're maintaining a certain rate, then arbitrage will take place and kind of forcing those other liquidity pools to hold and maintain your exchange rate, because it's going to balance itself out. So that's, in my opinion, the purpose for you to have your own liquidity pool instead of just leveraging the community's liquidity pool, is that you're sort of setting that price and it helps to maintain that exchange rate.
I'm not seeing a direct benefit from jumping into like a liquidity pool for at least the actions. Maybe there is some value there for the little fish token when we get there, but for the NFTs, I think it's just okay to mint them and have them be out there, sold on the exchanges that already exist, like marketplaces like JPEG Store, those types of places. But here, I think maybe think about the actions and what value they bring. I think these are great. That economic, they have economic value, as in you can sell an action for a specific price. They represent your, so this is step 3, this is your recognition / reputation. So you can build up your reps within your community and elsewhere. So you can take all your actions and say, look at all these stuff that I did. And that's gonna carry weight around some circles in life.
Yeah, that would still count as utility, no? No?
That is a type of utility, I'd say, yes. So that'd be like, so what is the utility of the action? Utility of actions is reputation. So maybe we can do it like this.
Okay, I'm not fully apprised to all of this. I'm sorry, I'm kind of late joining this. Can you spend this reputation inside of the bounty board to basically acquire work from others? So you acquire these action points or something, and can you post an action and then spend those action points to acquire somebody else's work?
Well, the reputation we're talking about in this case is just the social reputation that builds up from you generating actions. So you went and wrote a piece of code, you did this, you did Y, that naturally brings up a reputation. So we know, oh, Curtis did X, Y, Z, he knows this stuff. So you have that reputation as a person who knows that stuff. And you could potentially build on top of that an algorithm that turns that into a point, for example, to spend. You can do a bunch of different things with it. That you can lock some dework tasks with that. You can you can fix Discord roles with that. That gives you access to a few things. But at the bare minimum, that just tells us, oh yeah, this guy knows what they're talking about, because they can show all their stuff. So it's like a portfolio of what you have done in this case.
Okay.
To be fair, I think we are also trying to figure out what we're doing. So
Oh
yeah.
yeah, like
Got it. No,
learn as
yeah,
you
I'm
go
so
practice.
reputation, that makes a lot of sense, and that is a value add. But then my question is like, what do you do with that reputation? You know, I can complete actions, but do I get paid for those actions? Or I mean, what's the value of building up my reputation? Obviously, I have access to maybe more complex or higher paid type of actions, or
Yeah, yeah. So we'll still have to figure out the reputation systems, like in the future, if there are actions that would make or break like a specific project, like anyone come and do it, or do they have to build up a little bit of reputation to be able to do it? Those kind of things we'll still have to figure out.
So the way I think about reputation is it's great when you have it at a social level. For example, when you open up someone's LinkedIn, you see that, oh, they worked at AWS as a software engineer for 5 years. That's reputation. Like you already know a bit about that person. So you can kind of can trust that this guy knows what they're talking about when it's about software. When you try to turn that into something that you can
Actionable.
count, yeah, when you turn that into something that you can use in a smart contract, so like I'm going to turn in all this reputation for X or Y, it gets very dangerous. It gets very dangerous because it can be gamed easily. So it becomes really difficult, in my opinion, to do stuff like that safely. But safely experimenting with that is possible, I think. Uh, the That's why, like, once we build up all this reputation around actions, you can experiment with it inside of organizations, where you can say, all right, if you have 10 actions of type X, whatever type X is, for example, I wrote a piece of code, like software engineering actions, 10 of them. If you have those, but those are also worth a total of 5,000 ADA at least, now you can do an X action. You can do another thing within this organization. You can experiment with all those. But I feel like there's a lot of experimentation to be done to find good answers there, because they're all going to be gamed. All of them are going to be gamed. Yeah, all of them are going to cause many problems. It'll take us probably years to solve all of those. But maybe we can build some crazy AI systems that solve all those for us. Does this follow as like, what value does the action bring? Is there anything we're missing?
I mean, it does, but there is a contrast, I feel like, to the statement that you made earlier with like AWS, you know, so you worked with AWS or you did something and that indicates that you're a software developer and it showcases that. Now, the difference though, I think, is that that value that you gained from AWS is extendable outside of its ecosystem. You can take that experience and apply it anywhere else. Whereas in this case, I feel like it's a contrast to that. It's only valuable within the littlefish ecosystem, right? Like you can't necessarily take it elsewhere unless that other community recognizes those
No,
actions.
why can't you? You can, all your
I mean,
actions are in your wallet. All your actions document the things you have done. All you need to do is open up something that shows the actions, the NFTs inside of your wallet, and display them to someone. So you just need a UI that is similar to LinkedIn, and then you can do it.
yeah, no, I agree. You can. It just more brings to me, like, what brings to light is partnerships with, like, maybe Gimbal Labs or Emergo or somebody, and having a form of agreement or consensus on how the community can leverage this, right? How do you represent this information? Obviously, you can see it in the wallet, but what does it mean to Gimbal Labs? What does it mean to IOHK or IOG? And then just having that conversation might actually generate that value.
The way I think about it is, once we have these actions and are generating these show your skills on the ground, like better than any LinkedIn profile can. So all we need is a good UI. We don't quite look, those partnerships and agreements with communities that are around us will be very valuable. But once we are able to showcase these to, I mean, any area, you can showcase any skill. And it doesn't need to be to a group that is working on Cardano or Catalyst. It can be to, even to Amazon. Look at all the stuff that I built. This is all the proofs. Like, it's better than a LinkedIn profile because it directly points to exactly what you did and how you did it. So you can go ahead and use that reputation elsewhere once we have a platform where you can show it. And that is.
Can I add something?
Yeah, sure.
Isn't, like, when we see actions as a source of reputation, can't someone just, like, pay up his reputation by, like, buying software, like, actions from other people, collecting them and showing himself as a software engineer?
Well, we would know that they just bought it instead of they produced it. So there's a discussion in the chat about soul-bound tokens. This applies quite well. It's like if we could do this would be my preferred way to do it. Is once somebody creates an action, there's a soul-bound one that you receive, and there's one that you can sell. So you always keep a part of the actual thing that you produced, and that would be your reputation. And just selling it is just use. Buying it would mean just you supporting that action. But right now, I guess with Cardano, that's not possible because you can't change the logic of the sale. What we can do instead is we just write who produced it inside of the metadata, and we use that. We show that data. So any UI that uses the system would make sure to make a distinction between who owns it and who produced it. So to make that reputation really visible to everyone.
So what would be the value to the person buying it?
Right. So there are many actions in the world that we want to support. So you do donations. That may be one form of buying actions. We as Littlefish are buying actions that build Littlefish Foundation. So that's our motivation behind buying those actions. So you can use it as a system of payment for things that help you out. So like a reverse bounty. When you generalize this system, it's just a basic payment system. So why would you buy anything? This is something that has been done. You want to support that thing. It could be a donation. It could be a direct payment. It could be based on like a fixed rate of things. You could build a smart contract around it to buy certain types of actions that have been verified in some way. So you could build many different things around it. But the two basic things that we can hit immediately are like payments for things that you want to see and donations. So,
Hey, Chakan, quick question. If actions are building up to being a reputation, then if individual colonies can assign like action NFTs, then the organization that is assigning or agreeing and saying that, okay, they have done this action, needs to also have a reputation to be able to do that. No, just because anyone can say, oh, I'll give you like a fake work NFT saying, oh, you did this and this and this, and then you can use it as a reputation in other places, that kind of thing.
Right. So that's why I'm really tentative about quantitatively thinking about reputation in this way. This is why we connect organizations and littlefish. So when you produce an action, you produce it under the as a littlefish, but you produce it for a organization, right? So just as you said, organizations themselves have reputation, and if we know, like, it's an organization, it's Gimba Labs, it's Littlefish Foundation, then we know that these guys did their job in letting this person produce for them. But there will be some organizations with low reputation. So if that action was produced from them, it should, in our heads, have lower reputation. Now we can turn that into a number to represent it, but then it's gonna be gamed. So, but it's a great area to like investigate, and it may be like the major focus of what we do as Littlefish in trying to turn this into a quantity that we can measure. But does that kind of answer it? Like,
Yeah, yeah, like you said, we'll have to like think it out a little. Yeah.
yeah, what the thing that I'm trying to like underline is thinking
Get,
about reputation as a social thing that we kind of know between each other, right? I know you have reputation in my eyes, in my head, in some way. Like I compute it. You do it for me on the other way around. And this system just tries to make that simpler. So when you think about, oh, what does Chakan do? Oh yeah, look at Chakan's actions. Here they are. You can see them. Oh, like that makes sense. It's like
no,
he's part of these organizations, that type of thing.
but yeah, so yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to figure out how like actions could be valuable if like, you know, if we have to use the other person, like for example, I know Chakan, so I trust Chakan, not because of Chakan's actions, because I know you, I've seen you work, you know. But if we have to say I have to blindly trust someone based on their actions, you know, I don't know, I just feel like I couldn't yet trust anyone based on their actions at this point.
Right. So imagine we have a organization that does like beach cleaning, my favorite example, and you have no idea who the people in this organization are. They have a bunch of different actions. What they do is like they have a bunch of different actions of them cleaning beaches. Like all these actions have photos, images, videos of them cleaning beaches, right? You have all this information. But then what they can do to improve their own reputation is have third parties come and verify them. And those verifications would be other actions by a second organization. And then through that, like completely against social, like you just take a look, they say these guys verify us. So you can take a look at their actions and see you don't know either of these organizations. That builds up reputation. Again, this can be gamed. Like these guys could be colluding, but you know that's the way the world works. You just build up reputation, and if these guys are colluding, it will come out at some point, and everything they've done is on chain. Like everything they've done is on chain, so you can find it at some point, and that's how this platform is giving you reputation. Like it's not going to be immediate. You may not see it immediately, but it's going to come out eventually because everything's on chain. We know everything. Like you can't hide it. We'll be able to tell if you're lying eventually.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah.
Which does beg the question for a potential blacklist for those that have been, right, like kind of caught up in performing these types of actions. The UI would have to be responsible for that because that you can't really represent that on chain, but you could have a UI. And so whatever is representing the value of these action points probably should have like a blacklist saying this organization is abusing, these action points, take that into consideration type of thing.
This is a very interesting point because all actions are NFTs and we don't, like they could just copy the metadata and run it themselves and they can just build their own UI. So we potentially have limited control over this. But if we build things right, we give every incentive to people who are behaving accordingly to use our certified UIs. So it wouldn't just be one UI, it would be multiple UIs. Because imagine one organization does what? Beach cleaning. Is this the same organization using the same UI as littlefish? Like we don't do beach cleaning. We just build littlefish. That's what we do. So our needs are entirely different than this organization. So this organization would be using like an NGO UI, for example, and we would be using a Web3 builder UI, and then some other person will be using like I don't know, research UI. And you can build all of these things because the data is, the data is just open. You can just use it. All we would need to do is provide a JavaScript library so that anybody can build this, and then anybody can build whatever UI they want. But then we wouldn't be able to control it.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. Was in Snap really we're doing the same thing, building a library so that people can share the UI, but then that library contains the blacklist as a standard. So if they wouldn't copy paste ours, it would contain the blacklist as well. But like you said, they can choose not to. However, maybe we indicate that somehow, like you said, a certified UI. If they use our library, then they're certified. If they don't, then they're not.
Yeah, I think that's where it kind of needs to evolve into. So that's where our reputation comes in as littlefish, that we would need to.
We are giving us our own reputation. Fair enough.
Yeah, we should be the most reputable organization on the platform. If not, like our platform doesn't work. Like, that's a good system goal, I think. Where's the system goal? No. Oh man. Become the most reputable.
No, but it wouldn't be a system goal because we are still like giving ourselves reputation on a human basis, like a human controlling like the reputation, right? Like a human is accepting it. If it's like Bitcoin, where like even if I created Bitcoin, I still have to create a miner and like mine Bitcoin, then it is like actually like gaining reputation, right?
Well, yeah, but is there an issue with that? That there is, it's that we just give up the information, the resources for you to make a decision on what the reputation is.
Oh,
And
whether
we're just providing the
okay.
information. You make a
Okay,
decision based on your subjective preferences.
Got it. So we are just like solving it by just transparency, saying that even if it's given by a human, it is transparent. You can make your decision on whether it's valid reputation or not. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, some people are going to say, no, you guys are not transparent, but still use our platform, which will be interesting. Like, it's good actually that people that don't believe we're reputable don't use the platform. Hopefully that happens. Like that would mean we have values aligned users beyond the Littlefish Foundation, which would be very good, I think. Oh, that might be a system goal. I don't know how we can achieve that, but I don't know. Users, let's say. There were a few things here for automated market makers. Does this kind of match what the goals they have? Economic goal, low cost of operation, low market risk, consistently predictable.
So I mean, the consistency and all of that is like a function of automation, right? But in our system, it's not automated. So should we consider the same things?
No, definitely not. I was just trying to see, like, understand if there are parallels to how they're phrasing their system goals to these. These are completely social. There's are more economic goals, technical goals, agent goals. So those would be maybe agent goals, or like platform goals, if that makes sense. This would be agent goal, and the agent is us. I don't know, a lot to think about here.
Agents are usually people who balance out the value of something throughout the market, basically.
I think agent in this context is any user, any individual, any organization, any thing that exists on the platform. So for an AMM, it would be a trader, investor, anything. For us, it could be the organization. That's if we think about us as an agent, but maybe that's the wrong way to think about it. I'm not quite sure. No. Right. All right. I think this was very well. We thought quite a bit about our system goals. I bet we'll come back to these quite a bit to think about them more as we learn. Anybody, some additional thoughts on what we're doing? On the things we learned? If not, I think this is a good place to end this session. It's been about 80 minutes in.
Can I add something?
Yeah, for sure.
So like in SWOT, there are like threats that like a topic in the right left corner, and like the question in my mind is like, how is like littlefish more beneficial for like someone who is like selling actions as code compared to like Upwork or a site like that, work or hire site?
Mm-hmm. I'm not quite familiar with those platforms, but as far as I know,
it doesn't sound too similar. I mean, that's kind of one of my questions too, right? Is when you sell actions, that's not for the work, right? That's for work that's already been done. If you're trying to create a new action, like you want to hire somebody to do some work and you're reviewing their previous actions to make sure they have the experience, you would create a new action. So you're not buying that other action, you're creating a new one. And then this person qualifies for it. So they would obtain those action points, right? So it's not the same as Upwork where you're offering up your services and then buying those services. You're actually creating a new action, right? Or am I misunderstanding?
I think we are creating a service, but without the guarantee of a reward. So there are two kinds of rewards. One is that the action can be bought by a colony, and the other reward is that someone can can make a donation because they like the action that you did. That's my understanding of it. Did I get that right,
So-
Shrikant?
Could you repeat? I kind of missed.
So, so when someone is doing an action, there is no guarantee that they will be getting the reward.
Yeah.
The colony has to accept their action and then reward whoever created that action. That is one way of getting the money. And another inflow of income is when someone donates money by buying your action. So so these are the two ways that it is done, as opposed to Upwork, which is saying, hey, I'm doing this service, so you pay me money. So yeah, so there's no guarantees. That's the difference, I think.
Yeah, so that's one way of looking at it. Yes. So when you create an action, you don't have a guarantee that somebody will be buying it. But the benefit is, like comparing it to platforms like Upwork, is that you can just do stuff elsewhere. You make money there, and then you can create an action on the platform to showcase what you did. And this thing lives with you forever as your portfolio of actions. And you can carry around that as reputation that leads you to get more rewards elsewhere and from this platform as well. So
That's a bit of a deep rabbit hole there. Like who's validating that action?
right, who is validating that action?
No, wait, I thought you couldn't create an action unless it is for a colony.
Yeah,
So the
sure.
colony has to validate an action, I thought.
Yeah, you can create a colony that is like freelance software engineers united that you created, and then you just manage it, and you talk to people who do that kind of work and get them in. I mean, everybody can create an organization. It's fine. Like right now you can't, but eventually you'll be able to. It'll be like opening a Facebook community. So anybody will be able to create those organizations. But the thing is, it's tied to an organization so that like you have you have the reputation of the organization to vouch for the little fish.
I actually like that. I'm kind of expanding that thought. So let's say you create an organization that's basically yourself. You're a freelancer, a consultant, whatever. So you create an organization and then you populate it with all of your actions that you've created. So at this point, nobody's validated that information. But let's say you collaborate with another colony. So C4C, and C4C gets you to do some work. They could potentially actually buy some of these reputation points and then spend them to your actions somehow. I'm just trying to think of like a review system, right? You a 5-star review, and if somebody actually reviewed your actions and confirms that or validates that in some way, they can somehow indicate that. So can they spend their action points, essentially to validate your existing actions, somehow rating the validity of it?
So you could do that with let's say C4C. Let's imagine we are generating actions. Somebody else can be a third-party organization, colony, that creates actions that validates our work. So they can publish a report of, we took a look at all the work that C4C did, took a look at all their actions. We did the groundwork of going to those links, seeing if that work has been done. We went to their events. This is our report of validating their work. Here it is. We give them 5 out of 5. And you could build systems like that on top of this that kind of does something similar. And you can categorize those actions so that that type of work is called audit, for example. And then you'll be able to list out actions by C4C that are audited so that that work has been audited. That work has been validated. And you can just support those as a buyer, as a donator. Does that kind of land. But there
Yeah,
are no
that
like action points, at least in the just the basic system with actions, just actions.
so for some actions to be validated, I feel like they have to, for example, if for software development, they have to be open source, otherwise they wouldn't be able to access the code. Same is the case with design. You have to submit like a Figma file and like open up and make it open source design for it to be validated. So I think that for me that sounds great, but like I would love to hear what you guys think as well.
No, that's something we're incentivizing. The system incentivizes open source. Share your work. Like it's all about sharing your work. Like, this platform is for people who don't fear this kind of stuff. Like you're gonna put it on the blockchain, what you did, it's gonna live forever. It's not for the faint-hearted, man. If you're using this, you gotta be clean. Otherwise, it's gonna show. Like that's the platform. But this is a great point as well.
Hey Curtis, I'm just curious. How would you feel about that? Would you be scared, or would you be like, yes, I want to do this?
The fact that everything would be open source.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm here for the same reason you guys are. So
Right.
I'm interested in finding a way to allow open source to become a standard. I feel like we're in a transition period where IP, capitalism and the way we operated business before was heavily leveraging IP, right? And making sure that it's closed source. We're trying to go open source, but when you're in the same pool as a closed sourced IP backed, industry, they're your competition and they have access to VC funding. So what I see potentially happening is people start to just open up their open source, and then somebody who has a VC backing with millions of dollars is going to hire a team to produce this, copy and paste it in a closed source and build a better UI. And they're going to have all the advantages, really. The people who it matters to, like the devs, they're going to see that and probably not use the closed source services. But the community, the end user, the regular person, they're going to see the comparison between open source and closed source. And closed source is always going to look better because they have more money, more access to certain developers, and it's centralized. So how does that look? How do we incentivize open source and decentralization so that somebody can't just copy it and then, put it behind IP and close the source and make it look better and steal from everybody else? There's going to be a period where I feel like that's going to be prominent. And then eventually it'll be socially frowned upon. And that's going to create the disincentivization for that. But until then, I don't know. That's going to be a tough one.
That's such a good point. When we think about it in the context of littlefish, I think we have an advantage in that all we do is like NFTs. All you need to know about our IP is just the metadata, and then you can copy paste it. But the thing is, we can do the same to yours, because it's just an NFT. We'll be able to track what you're doing and then take a look at yours and build from yours. If you do go ahead and copy paste it and do something better. But for organizations that are building on our platform, it's exactly an issue. Like you need to be doing this.
Can you guys hear me?
Open source. Yes.
Yeah, I was trying to get my mic to work. Anyway, my answer to that question would be composability. When you close your system and you use IP, then other developers cannot build on top of what you have created, right? Because they're going to be wary that you're just going to steal it, so they're going to stay away. So through composability, you can create a project others can build on top of that. And that way you can create a more rich ecosystem that is more complex and can do many more things than something close and created by a single company. The example I would give is flash loans, right? So a flash loan is a loan that you borrow an amount and you pay it in the same transaction. And this was deployed in Uniswap and in Aave, in things on Ethereum. And that cannot be done anywhere else, right? I cannot create a flash loan in Binance, or I cannot create a flash loan in Coinbase. And that's an example of something that can only be created in a distributed ledger when it's open source and when you have composability.
Yeah, that is awesome. And
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like even with Figma, we use a lot of tools that the community has built. And that is why we go back to Figma. Even if there's another software that is very good, we don't have those community built tools available. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I do completely agree. I started researching on cognitive surplus for a while, and maybe I'll throw some notes in here real quick. But exactly what he said was very relevant to the concept of cognitive surplus, where stacking, community is able to stack on top of each other, and they have infinite amount of resources because of it being open source. So here's what are some of the comments. So having access to infinite availability of individuals creates a systemic level of quality that simply cannot be achieved by a managing entity that says that's a one of, we can ignore it. So essentially, even a closed source entity cannot compete with something like that, but it does take time for that to happen.
I think it is getting easier and easier to get there. Like 2-3 years ago, I don't think anybody was building in this format with like communities. Right now, everybody is. So we're getting some tools to make that simpler. And once we get going with this idea, once everything is composable, you can come and build your business on top of it. Like that idea kicks off, one business, 2, second, 3, 4, 5, and then you're at like a critical mass in a short time. I think that's one of the key things like big corporations like Twitter missed on like early on. I would have loved to build something with the Twitter API. Like they wouldn't let me. Like would have done some crazy stuff, build something that fishes out like fake news in my country. Like nobody's gonna do that. Maybe there are like 100 people who's gonna do that in here. It's like, but we can't. Like, and we get affected terribly because of it. But these platforms kind of allow for that to happen, and it starts with that open source and composable with the ideas. And this platform really allows for it once you think about it. Like once you think about action as like anything can be an action, man. Represent the thing as an action. Just build a business around one type of action that you come up with. You can do it. You can build auditing organization that audits NGOs. You can have NGOs themselves here just showing their actions. You can do many bunch of different stuff. And then you can build on top smart contracts that buy specific actions based on rules. Then you can automate a bunch of these stuff. And you can imagine all the crazy things that can happen on top of this platform.
And also, I like the fact that your old work can finally be incentivized if it hasn't already been incentivized. Like you open it up, organizations that find it useful incentivize you. So it kind of incentivizes actions that haven't been used before, I feel like.
Yeah, the things you've done before, just create. You already got a good start. Like everybody has stuff that they've done, that they've documented. You're gonna get a good start ahead. Huh?
Is that a Cardano ring, Chakan?
Oh, let's say Cardano, not a ring,
Oh, a puppet
stick
or
it-
something?
you stick it behind your phone, but I don't want to. I just play with my hand.
Oh,
Summit.
you need a fidget toy.
Yeah, I like playing with it. They got some. They gave us some swag at the summit: a T-shirt, a phone charger that I'm gonna use as a coaster. Which looked very interesting.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
I meant to reach out to you guys and say congratulations. I saw you and Jem presenting at
Oh,
the
thank you.
summit. Very cool.
Yeah, we had a short presentation. But tomorrow we'll have a long presentation. If you guys are gonna hop into the weekly call, we're gonna have an anniversary event, celebrate 1 year of littlefish. So if you can drop by to that, that'd be great.
On my calendar, it doesn't show a time. Is it all day?
No, it's the usual time with the community gathering. So 19 UTC.
Oh, okay. I see. I see. For some reason, I have two entries on my calendar. One that looks like an all-day event, and then one that is around that time that you said. So, okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Of course. Oh man, we're gonna have a lot of fun in these token engineering sessions. Is what I'm getting. I'll really think
And
about
I
it.
must have missed, like, I've seen it on my calendar, but there's been, I assume, quite a few previous sessions on
This was the
tokenomics.
second one.
Oh, okay. Is the previous one recorded by chance?
Yep.
And that's up there. Okay, I'll find it.
Oh, it's on the Littlefish Foundation YouTube channel. You can find it there.
Okay. Cool. I need to catch up.
Nice. I think we'll run these weekly from now on because we got a lot to talk about, it seems, for each of these. And I think it's good to structure it with like, what does this module will teach us? And then let's try to apply it to something we know. And see what happens.
It's very relevant to me. I'm doing the same thing. In fact, I enrolled in tokenomics engineering course as well for my project, but it's equally beneficial for me to join these sessions and kind of have these conversations with you guys because it helps both parties, I feel like.
Yeah.
What is your project, Curtis?
So yeah, Harsha, you know how we're in the Clarity DAO competition. It is that. It's the infrastructure DAO. So I'm actually quite excited and I want to, share it with some people, but essentially it's we want to reach out to some small projects that don't have a stake pool yet and ask, do you need a stake pool? Why do you need a stake pool? Basically align their requirements and their needs, and then have an option where they can actually send their community to us. Because what's one of the #1 biggest problems of standing up a stake pool? You need 5-10 million ADA to successfully mint blocks and become revenue positive. It's very difficult to get your community that large.
I thought minting blocks had to do with the number of unique wallets staked rather than just the amount of ADA, no?
No, it's mostly the actual amount of ADA. So you could have 10,000 wallets all delegating 1 ADA, and that's 10,000 ADA, and that you still won't mint blocks. So it's mostly the totality of ADA being delegated to that pool that gets applied to the algorithm. And so it's a very difficult task, and it can take, projects 6 months, a year, 2 years in some cases to get to revenue positive for their stake pool. So what we're offering is, okay, come with us, bring your community to us and delegate this, but it's a DAO. It's not, it's not our stake pool. This is a stake pool managed by the DAO. And if you bring your community to us, there will be an indication. I plan to use like Hazelnet bot or something to indicate what community did you come from, right? And that's going to get allocated to DAO tokens, and those DAO tokens will be given to that community, that project. They now have a percentage. Those DAO tokens is a percentage of the revenue share model. So we operate stake pools, and it accumulates ADA rewards, and then we distribute those ADA rewards via the DAO tokens. So that small project can be revenue positive day one. All they got to do is send their community members to stake with us, and they have their own marketing campaign and basically how they would do it for their pool. But just stake with this DAO, and now everybody is net positive.
Oh, okay. So you'd be running multiple pools with like the audiences, how so? But you'd have to run multiple pools, right? Eventually, because you'd run out.
Eventually. Yes, eventually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then our goal is like once a pool reaches around 45 million ADA, that's kind of the sweet spot. Then we stand up a second pool. And then the new community members come in and they start staking with that pool. So it does evolve into a multi-pool, which is a, controversial topic about single pool versus multi-pool. However, if it's a DAO that's managing that multi-pool, where's the argument? How can you say that it's centralized when the DAO right, because those projects have DAO tokens, that's their voting power. They get to help govern and dictate this DAO. So it's really no different other than an alliance. You have a collection of projects that all want to work towards a similar goal. They just need access to their revenue from their community members. This kind of offers that right up front. And then, of course, when they grow to a large size, 10 million ADA, whatever, they can choose to branch off and start their own stake pool and exit the DAO. However, I'm envisioning a growth, there's an ability for growth. This isn't just stake pools. We're also going to run World Mobile, Earth nodes, Singularity nets, sidechain nodes, Cody nodes, X, Y, and Z. And if that revenue that's generated from all those services is larger than what you would get by running your own stake pool, then it almost incentivizes you to stay, with the DAO, because you're getting access to more revenue than if you were to branch off. Now you could, of course, but we're even offering those DAO tokens give you permanent access to the revenue, right? So even if you did leave, you still own your DAO tokens and you still get a portion of that revenue share. It may be less, but you still do get, you get lifetime rewards. And the way I'm envisioning that is you came in, you brought your delegation, you brought the utility for us, for the DAO, which is awareness and a marketing essentially. So you're now getting paid for that effort for a lifetime, because it's constantly going to grow. More and more projects will come into this, and more Earth nodes or infrastructure will continue to build. So the revenue will always continue to grow. So we're able to take on more and continue to pay those early adopters as well.
Yeah. So when people say decentralization, I don't think they mean social decentralization, but like network decentralization, because it'd still be the same stake pool operator, right?
Well, how so? Like, because we can geographically, separate these stake pools. And if it's the DAO, which we're still trying to figure that out about the key holder piece, but the DAO is going to manage it. The DAO is what has access to the stake pool keys. Now, the person who has access to that may change. It may be dynamic, but it's still owned by an alliance, a collective of people. So you're right, it's decentralized of the network, but say we geographically split it off, and who's benefiting from this stake pool? It's not a single person or even a single entity. It's the collection of the group. So I feel like we have, a defense for the multi-pool argument. However, I'd love to have that, right, with somebody who maybe knows more than I.
What are you calling the DAO?
Well, right now it's DAP DAO, because the business is digital ARC pool, so DAP. But we may change that because it's not, to me, this is how it,
It sounds like DAP DAO, and it's not doing DApps. I'm like, what?
Right. No, I was thinking infra DAO, but that seems too plain, because it's an infrastructure.
Centralized DAO.
Centralized DAO. Wow. Okay. I never thought about that. It's a positive way to use the word centralized.
Got to be thought provoking.
Yeah,
and you can say as the mission, we want to build the biggest multi-pool SPO DAO ever.
Well, I mean, in my opinion, the bigger we get, that means the more smaller communities we've helped, right? That's how I'm seeing it. It's like the bigger, more centralized we get, the more we've actually helped smaller communities out there, because we've onboarded, more and more. So I'm sorry, I know I totally distracted this meeting.
Yeah, no, I think we were.
No, but like the meeting was also about like stake pools and like AMMs and stuff. So I thought it
And I was gonna say, Curtis, how we're configuring these is one of the members from the community is going and studying and then bringing it back and telling us, and then we study it. So if you want to take a look at any of these modules, please feel free to do so, and then come teach us. And then if you want us to work on uh, your your model of on something, like prepare like a little workshop for us, we can work on that as well. It doesn't need to be just little fish stuff. It can be, it's good to think about different use cases to get an understanding of all this, because otherwise we're going to get stuck thinking about one thing, and that's not good in this context.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you. I'd love to take advantage of that. And because part of it, I actually wrote it down in my task list to reach out to you at
Yeah.
some point when we had more information to just see like, okay, do you guys need a stake pool? If you do, what's the reasoning? What's the justification? And then can, our DAO fulfill those needs? So it's more just research, customer research, outreach, trying to figure out what it is that the community actually needs. And I think you guys would be very useful information towards that. Because is littlefish running a stake pool yet?
No, we're not.
Not yet. Okay.
We talked about it early on, but we thought it would be kind of a distraction to focus our energy there. But if it's simple to do, I mean, I'd rather stick with our pool than some other random pool that I didn't take a look into.
Gotcha.
Support you in the process, and we got a good community. I think we can get some supporters. Harsha is a whale, I think so.
Oh, Harsha, are you a whale? Actually,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
probably
I'm
not something
totally
you wanted
available.
that goal.
Like, yeah, only because I eat a lot of food, not Ada.
Very nice.
Alright.
Yeah, the idea is it would be as simple as you just kind of run a marketing saying, hey guys, we're doing this thing. If you guys want to stake and delegate, you can delegate here. Our DAO is allowing the option if you wanted to airdrop or reward your community on top of the ADA for delegating, with quote unquote little fish, but it's the actual DAO stake pool, then you can actually do that and offer up additional tokens or basically anything that you would use a stake pool for, which could be allocation, distribution of your tokens. That's typically what they are, ISPO. So if you wanted to capture the ADA rewards that the delegators would get in exchange for your token, you can do that as well. So it's hopefully, ideally, as easy as, hey, community, go stake and delegate with this pool, and that's it. That's all the involvement necessarily would be needed. And then the DAO would maintain, manage the stake pool and do all that that's necessary.
That would be pretty sweet. I think we're gonna talk with Jim as well, and let's talk about this. I think we may do that. But I think this is a great time to stop, guys. We do 2-hour sessions for these study sessions, right? We should probably set it up so that we do like 1 hour, but 10 minutes break and then another hour. Maybe that's the best way to put it. Next time we're gonna do that one.
Yeah, I think we can do like an hour of just like discussing what we went through and an hour of workshopping, because workshopping I thought helped me give a lot more clarity than when I read.
Mhm. All right, let's do it that way. 1 hour of studying the modules, and then 1 hour of trying to understand workshopping. Let's do it that way. That works.
And then the person who picks up the module is going to guide that discussion.
Well, that would be ideal, yes. But it's probably better to just talk about, okay, we can workshop it this way asynchronously beforehand, and then we can pitch in some ideas about what we can think about, because it is difficult to design a workshop and then guide it and do it. It's like it's a big thing. So it's best that if we all pitch in. At this point, I'm like, I can devise workshops like out of the blue, so I can help a little bit.
Nice.
It's
I
a
need to get
skill
to
you
your
pick
level.
up. You just gotta do it. Like that's the way to do it. That way, I'm not gonna do it. You do it yourself. You pick up that skills.
Well, I've been doing that in our meetings. So a lot of the stuff I see from you guys and Gimbal Labs is, oh, I'm going to set a 2-minute timer. Everybody add your input. That's a very useful
I should go to
exercise.
Gimbal Labs to learn those tips, because I'm just winging it.
Oh yeah, no, I don't like, you set a prompt and then you set a 2-minute timer and then everybody throws in their
Ah,
sticky notes, right? And if you're
that's a
trying to
great
get
idea.
to a single answer, then at the end of the 2-minute timer, you got what, 15, 20 or however many sticky notes. And then you set another 1-minute timer and say, okay, everybody vote. And now you have a poll. Everybody vote on your top 5. And then it narrows it down to the top 5. And then you do it again. Give me your top 1. And now you have one answer that everybody sort of worked towards. So I found that as a useful practice. That does require, so polls, voting, and timer requires the paid version of Miro,
Oh, we have
which I
that.
don't have. So
We have that. No problem.
perfect.
Never use the timer though. Use the voting one, but we should. That's a very good idea.
Yeah, it's a good way to consolidate ideas quickly, and yeah, I found it as a perfect exercise.
Yeah,
think
but
we should
also
use
it
it
has
also.
like some downsides, just in terms of like if there are too many people and you get like a limited amount of time to go through all the ideas, you might not necessarily pick the idea that makes most sense because you do not have enough time to analyze each idea.
Yeah, no, I agree. And context. For me, it's context. Like, do the people who are writing the sticky notes understand the context of what's being asked? That's also tricky.
I think we had a few good exercises with the Ikigai workshops that we're going to learn to use these tools a little bit better.
Yeah, that's where I think it would perfectly play in. How we were talking about the questions and for the Ikigai survey or form and coming to conclusions, that would be perfect. Timer, voting, polls, all that stuff.
Yeah, we might experiment with that on the Gimbal Labs playground session on Tuesday, because I'm thinking we're going to run a Ikigai for Gimbal Labs.
You
Oh,
should
nice.
like make that more public and invite us. Like it'd be
Yeah, I
awesome
should,
for us
shouldn't I?
all to like show up and like have a little fun
good.
with.
It's I should say these things and announce them, don't shouldn't I? Man, I'm just too overloaded and just miss announcing.
And also you should like start training someone else to be able to replace you
Oh,
because you're getting too important and that's scaring me.
no, MJ is picking up the Ikigai stuff. I'm just gonna do it once. I'm helping her pick it up, and then she's gonna run the workshops for us. But if you want to
Awesome.
help me out in any of this, I'm all in. Please do.
Yeah, you almost need a community manager. I mean, because you're getting I understand. I can relate. I'm getting spread too thin. Too much is happening. To be able to actually communicate with my community is quite struggling. So you almost need like a community manager, somebody who's aware of what's happening in the back end and can actually send that message via, LinkedIn, Twitter, Discord, whatever, and reach out, because that takes a lot of time and effort to do, but it's also necessary.
Oh yeah. So MJ has been picking up some of that. So slowly, I hope it'll be better. But there's a lot of stuff going on at Discord that I want to respond to. It takes a lot of time. It's like there's a discussion about money. It's like you're talking about money. I want to talk about money. Let's talk about money.
We had a whole session about it.
Oh,
Like,
oh,
yeah.
oh man, we should have sessions about it where we talk about the philosophy of money. That's a good topic to talk about. We should do that. We got to talk. I'm sorry, guys. Like 10 meetings a week. Let's do it. Let's do it. That's the only way. That's the
Jakar,
only way.
I'm all on board. Like I would love to do that. The main thing that's distracting me, to be honest, from littlefish is financial stability,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But man, that's yes. My passion says, hey, let's do 15 meetings a week. Why not? Let's do it.
I think that makes sense actually. If we can actually do work during the meetings, like whenever we workshop, that means we're putting in work is happening. So and also it helps people like me that really enjoy working with others. I think.
Yeah, I think we can definitely do some of this stuff. I was talking to Conma to get us on the Conmaverse, so we can do like sessions there, a little more playful. But work sessions, I think it's a critical thing. Like we can get those going. Yeah, well, maybe we can start them this week. Maybe we'll do like work day where
Oh,
anybody
we
can
already started them with the Catalyst Compass.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. I'm gonna hop into those calls as well, hopefully this week.
I missed the last one. Was that yesterday?
Last
it was-
week.
Oh, I could have sworn I saw it on my calendar or something and I missed it. One of them.
If you missed it, I also missed it.
No. I'll have to look.
Oh man, there's so much stuff going on. I was at the summit. I missed all of it. I need to watch. It's like, so much stuff going on. You can't miss it for a second with this stuff. Too much. But thank you guys. Let's end the recording here. I'm gonna go and timestamp this. It's gonna be funny at the end. A little bit of token engineering and a lot of other stuff. Thank you. See you next time.
See you guys.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
See-